Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. The big story we're tracking at this time is the official launch of the revised methodology for computing unemployment statistics by the National Bureau of Statistics. That is, it's the first jobs data ever to be launched, and the Statistician General of the Federation, Dr. Yemi Kale, I'm expecting him to join me on the program. He is, of course, going to be joining me live via Skype from the nation's capital, Abuja. But just before we start our conversation, I've got the CEO, SBM Intel, Tunji Andrews, here with me in the studios for us to get his own perspective on all of this, even though this data hasn't been made public yet. But good morning, Tunji, and thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Good morning for having me again.
Well, it's interesting times for Nigeria. This is the first time ever that such a data will be published by the National Bureau of Statistics. But what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's generally trying to find the middle ground and be more realistic with the job data we presently have. What we have right now is a 40-hour week. So basically, the National Bureau of Statistics, if it's going to capture you as someone who's employed, you have to be working at least 40 hours per week. But if you move everybody in France to Nigeria, you'll realize that all of them will be unemployed because they work 35 hours a week. And then the International Labour Organization actually says it's 1 hour per week. So what the NBS is trying to do is to find a middle ground, sort of look more at the society and look at people who are working part-time, people who are working lesser hours per week, and try to capture more people in the job creation survey.
Well, one quick question. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering, who do you term as being employed? Because someone who actually does a menial job, for instance, the artisans, they do more than 40 hours a week, and they say they are employed. So who would you say is employed? I do, the same thing as well. So,
I mean, I think the easier way to find this out is to find out who is unemployed. And in the international standard for someone who's unemployed is someone who is out of work and available for work. So, for instance, a 5-year-old kid is out of work, but I mean, she's not available for work. So it narrows down that population. If you, it actually categorizes between people who are 15 and 65. And if you check the population from a population census, you find out that that is about 95 million people. That cuts it down from 170 million people. So there are people who are in university, who are in school, who are not available for work. So we have 97 million people. Now, out of these 97 million people, who are those that are actually available and ready for work? Who are those people who, within the next fortnight, they can take up a job? We cut that down again to another 65 million. So if you're looking for the people who are unemployed in the economy, we're actually looking at that circle of 65 million people. And of those 65 million people, we have 23.9% of them actually unemployed as of today. 23.9% of them. Well, the job methodology, the revision of the methodology is supposed to capture more people. So I don't know if it's going to be higher or lower, but we think we'll be able to have a better understanding of it. Because one of the things I've gotten to see is that what we have a lot is unemployment, not really unemployment. Underemployment, not unemployment. So somebody in Lagos, he has a BSc or he has an MSc, but he's working as a sales attendant somewhere. His full capabilities are not being utilized, so he's underemployed. But the reality is that if it was somebody who had a school cert who was working in that same position, nobody would frown at it and say it's not a job. But because he's underemployed, and we have a lot of that across the federation.
Well, it is a situation that has presented itself because, for instance, for such a person with such a qualification would want to work in the mid-level, but we don't have so many jobs being created in the mid-level. So he takes a job at, in the category where he can find it at the moment and he's making do with it. So in this situation now, we're calling those kind of people underemployed, and they still fall under the category of unemployed.
No, they're not. They're employed but underemployed. Okay. So if you've ever looked at the job creation statistics, it shows the people who are employed in the formal sector, informal sector, people who are employed in the public sector also, and it kind of breaks it down to let you know the number of people who are supposedly underemployed by basis of what they do and what they should be doing. If when you look at those figures, you realize that a lot of the people in the rural areas, you find very low unemployment in the rural areas because a lot of those people are farmers, fishermen. I mean, they're engaged in doing one thing or the other. But when you come to the urban areas like Lagos, you find a lot of unemployment because people are trying to get blue-collar jobs. But you also see that in the rural areas, you find a lot of underemployment, which is higher as against the urban areas. Urban areas, you find more properly employed people. So, I mean, the statistics is just trying to help us. I mean, it's meant for policymakers. Meant for them to be able to better grasp and understand what it is in the society. Because when you say a lot of people are not, just 23% of the economy is not employed, people get, oh. So we're looking for people who actually don't have a job and are available to work. Not you that have a job and believe I should be doing better.
So how do you now tie in, the entrepreneurs that we have? We have over 70 million entrepreneurs in Nigeria.
That is the fantastic area of it. I mean, there's this survey that was done by this organization, which is affiliated to Bill and Melinda Gates and the Clintons. They actually did find out that the average woman in Nigeria is 4 times more likely to go into entrepreneurship than the woman in the US. Why? Because in the US, I mean, it's better for me to just totally be unemployed and wait for the paycheck from the government at the end of the month. But in Nigeria, we don't have those safety nets. So, I mean, the woman knows that I either go out there and start selling something or I starve and die. So the idea is that the entrepreneur in Nigeria might be facing a lot more challenges, maybe making a lot less. But the truth is that a lot more people are employed in those areas. And those people are categorized as self-employed. So they are not unemployed.
So now in a situation where we see such people, such entrepreneurs who look at it that the challenges of running their business day to day is becoming too much. And so they close shop and then they join the list of unemployed.
What's the alternative? There's no safety net. I mean, that's the reason why you find a lot of people, especially in the rural areas. I mean, someone who wakes up, he has land in front of him. He's either going to have to farm or starve. I mean, that's the harsh reality of Nigeria.
But even if I'm going to have to farm, I need to have equipment. I need to have, finance to be able to buy seedlings and, till the ground, just to make it work. Even if it's just a very small patch I want to do, even if it's a tomato farm I want to do. It doesn't matter how it is, but I have to have incentives. I have to be encouraged to, to go that extra mile to want to do it.
Hunger is a very serious incentive. It's a very big motivation for a lot of Nigerians. If you've ever been hungry, you will know what I'm talking about. There are people who are out there who, I mean, I see this a lot, and it really, really burdens my heart. And I see people who are in traffic selling pure water. Now, if you do the simple maths in your head, and you calculate how much a bag of pure water is, and then you calculate how much the ice he bought is, and then you calculate how much is all the bags of pure water put together he sold, and you put out the differences, you'll find out that what he's making is less than 50 naira on each bag of pure water. And you wonder why he's out there. But, the reality is that he can't just sit down at home. He has to get out there and do something. So, I mean, it's a pretty dire situation, but people are out there doing one thing or the other.
So now, do you think that with more people that we have entering the job market faster than the jobs are being created, do you think that this new method now will kind of help, narrow
Capture,
it down?
Yeah, that is what it is meant to do. I do know that there was a committee set up by the NBS, and it has representatives from the CBN, the National Planning Commission, the National Population Commission, the Agric Ministry, about 10 different ministries, and it's just to try and see what are your needs. The Agric Ministry will be looking out to intervene in some certain areas. So say, okay, what kind of people are you looking at? The CBN creates all sorts of intervention funds for agriculture, for SMEs, and okay, what kind of people are you looking at? So they brought all those stakeholders together and said, okay, let's help put this thing together. Let's put a more realistic job creation methodology that will better capture the Nigerian situation.
Well, we're still hoping to talk to Dr. Yemi Kale, who's the Statistician General of the Federation, to get more highlights of this new unemployment data that we've been talking about. But Tunji is still here with me in the studio, and just before I let Tunji go, I'd like him to talk a little bit more about the unemployed. Looking at this data here, it actually said that if you're a student or voluntary housewife or choose not to work or cannot work, or are younger than 15 or older than 65, you're not in the labor force, and consequently you cannot be considered unemployed.
Really? I mean, think about it. Someone who is 72, for instance, he's out of work. But if you are going to give him a job, will he be able to actually take it? We're talking about the realities now. Someone who's 15, someone who's 14, still under the care of their parents. I mean, literally, if you give the person a job, you should be arrested, because that should contravene some child labor laws. So we're what the NBS is doing is trying to focus and put the light on that area of people who are actively looking for work. Because if you look at the International Labour Organization, they say for you to be considered unemployed, you have to have actively looked for work in the last 1 week and be ready to take up a job in the next fortnight. So you have to be ready to take up a job. It's not someone who is not skilled and is trying to get a bank empty job. I mean, that might be one.
So that still calls into question that we need to update and upgrade our skills acquisition center and encourage more people to head in that direction as well.
That is, for one of the things we have as a problem is the quality of jobs in the economy. It's the quality. I mean, it's the fact that first of all, we do not have a lot of skilled people, and when you see that when those positions open up, you see a lot of foreigners coming in to take the jobs. I do remember sometime, I think last year or 2 years ago, they were talking about the Lekki-Ikoyi link bridge, and one of the commissioners for Lagos State was saying they had to import welders, industrial welders from the Republic of Benin, which for me, I'm saying with all the job issues we're having in the country, we still went out to employ. But he said we just couldn't find welders in Nigeria, industrial welders. And I mean, that just shows you that we have a long way to go as concerns actively improving our labor force, improving the skill sets of our young people, and empowering entrepreneurs to be able to better understand the business terrain in Nigeria.
Tunji Andrews, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Tunji
Andrews is the CEO, SBM Intel. We're talking about the breaking news story, analyzing the new unemployment data. Of course, we're hoping to connect to the Statistician General of the Federation, that Dr. Yemi Kale is supposed to be joining me live from our studios in Abuja. We're talking more about this new unemployment data, the highlights of it. Of course, today is the official unveiling and launch of this revised unemployment data methodology used to derive the unemployment data. Well, Business Morning continues in just a moment. Please stay with us. Hi, welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. The big story we're tracking this morning is the official launch of the revised methodology for computing unemployment statistics, unemployment data by the National Bureau of Statistics. I'm being joined now via Skype from our Abuja studios by the Statistician General of the Federation, Dr. Yemi Kale. Dr. Yemi, thank you. Dr. Yemi Kale, thank you so much for joining me on the program. It's an interesting morning for you and for the rest of your team back there at the Bureau. Could you just, give us some highlights of this new unemployment data that we're going to be looking at?
Well, as unemployment is a key issue, not in Nigeria, but a lot of countries in the world. And I think the problem in improving it is to understand its nature. So a problem. Tend want to international practice in that, for example, we did the GDP as well as the methodological review. Now we come to employment, historical adopted.
Dr. Kale, if you can hear me, I'd like to, cut this conversation at this point. Let's try to fix the issues we have with our audio, and we'll get back to you and continue this conversation. So stick around with me. You're watching Business Morning. We're talking to the Statistician General of the Federation, Dr. Yemi Kale. We're trying to get his thoughts. We're trying to understand this new unemployment data that is going to be officially unveiled today in the nation's capital, Abuja. We're going to try to fix the issue there with the audio and continue the conversation. But I still have here with me in the studio Tunji Andrews, the CEO, SBM Intel, who has decided to stay on and continue to talk about this with us. So Tunji, while we try to, thank you so much for sticking around anyway, while we try to sort out, the issues with the Skype connection and the rest of it, let's, just quickly get a feel of what Abuja is going to be looking like, the venue of this launch today. What's it going to be looking like? Who are the people we're expecting to be there, the roll call?
I do know that for some better part of it, I think there will be some international organizations. I do expect that a few of the stakeholders in this revised methodology will also be there. The minister will also be there. But I don't think it's a very big event. I think it's something that is going to be happening at the Bureau office in Abuja, and it's going to happen probably in the boardroom. Just something to just unveil the methodology and explain the details of it. I'm really keen to know what the new details are because it's one thing. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people at home have been puzzled about why our job data looks low. I know a lot of people would want to know what the details are. Why is it that we have our unemployment rate as 23.9% instead of people thinking it should be 80% or something magnificent? So I'm as eager as the rest of Nigeria.
Do you also wonder what kind of method was used to gather this data?
Well, first of all, job creation data is. I was part of the last one. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I know, I will tell you, because I was in Enugu. My partner was in, I think, Zamfara or so. Then we had somebody from our team in Ekiti, and we had to go into the interlands. I'm telling you, places where there was no network, the roads were bad, we had no electricity. I mean, I suffered heat exhaustion. I had to be carried back to the hotel. And what broke my heart was not the fact that I couldn't go anymore. It was the fact that the members of the MBS, as in the staff of the MBS, still continued. I mean, it really broke my heart because I was thinking, I'm in Lagos here criticizing the job data is not as it should be. And these guys, we were in the field. I suffered heat exhaustion, and they were still going ahead with what they were doing. It's really, really. After when I go back to the hotel, I sent Dr. Kale a message and said, please, your people need more commendation and encouragement because this is what just happened to me, and I'm one of your average